Anything that's not. I would like us to congratulate fifth grader Caitlin McNaughton, sixth grader. Is it what's this? The sixth grader. Oh, that's great. Is he not? Susan's. Oh, okay. For getting being elected onto the governor's or the cabinet, the governor's cabinet for the student. Yeah. Our own kid. Congratulations. Anything else? Okay. Town manager, anything on the agenda? I can reserve it from the report. Okay. Citizens for anything that's not on the agenda. Okay. Review the minutes from the previous meeting. I have a motion to accept the minutes from the previous meeting. So moved. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Some comments from John Harrison. His name was misspelled. Oh, yes. It's Harrison, not Harrison. The last part's right. Just leave the H on. He said the subject was discussed at the school board, not the SU. Since the comments reflected the discussion of the select board meeting, not by itself. I believe Wayne Bronson. Comma after Darwin's name. You're not on the attendance last meeting. You was, I assume. It didn't really concern me that much. I'm not gonna make an issue. Well, we are. That means you probably didn't sign in, so you need. Oh, I did. I signed in for us. Oh, okay. I signed reading it. Okay. All right. We don't get to whack your hand with a ruler. I thought we would be on it. That's how we use these days. I won't comment any further on that. Is that it? Yeah. Is that? There is another one. Okay. That we got on 11 on the COLA discussion. I called Brandon to ask him, did you have a chance to verify that? I did not have an opportunity. Then I'll go to Stephanie. There was a motion that was made, Stephanie, and this is just it's procedural. When a motion is made to amend, we have to vote on the amendment first, and then vote on the main motion. Okay, so this does not include that. Did we actually do that? Did we? I think we did. But we did. Right? We. Well, you were here. When did you turn on? Yeah. So when a motion is made to amend a motion, you have to vote on the amendment first, and you have to record that, and then you have to vote on the new main motion, the amended motion. So there's actually two votes that need to be recorded. Okay? Can you verify that that was okay. I think we're going to need to wait on these minutes because until we get that, we may actually have to go back and correct our behavior if we didn't do it right. It's going to come out the same, but we got to set the record straight. So that's all I have. I don't know. She's going to review that. She's going to go back and edit the video and contact the chair. I would say. Yeah. There's a under the Memorial Grove Committee policy, item F, Michael Todd amends his motion to accept the second reading. I think it was to accept the proposed changes. Yes. Yes. For the second reading. That's those versions. That's correct.
This is these minutes for the next meeting.
Yeah, with the motion and the second be carried, but the vote on the minutes needs to be tabled to the next meeting.
Okay. What second and what?
That would be the easiest thing, you just, you go away.
Okay, all those in favor of the minutes as they are, signify by saying aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Nays carry, goes to next meeting. Thank you, discussion.
Start with the finance report. Between July 1st and October 31st, the transportation punch ticket revenue is pending. This is a different issue than we've dealt with in the past. Punch ticket costs for punches. After reviewing this and reviewing the lease services records going back to July 1st, as well as punch ticket sales, this is due to a lack of punches. In other words, people going to the CND dumpster and they punched it in and they don't wait that they have. So we're going to do a training for Wednesday, discussion with the transfer station staff to address that. It's overall, if on paper it's a problem right now, but what happens at the end of the year now with that fixed allocation fund is whatever the balance is, it just goes into the deficit reduction and then increase or decrease the permits. So it's fixing itself over 7 years regardless. But of course we want to end as close to zero as we can at the end of the year. So we're glad that we're pitching this now as we're in Q2. Any questions? I was asked a while ago to look into punch card systems, different ways to do punch cards at the transfer station. One of the driving factors was losing downers to the place for sales. I don't know if you all had a chance to review this little option overview. I tried to look data from area towns and I kind of graded where we are at as opposed to other towns as far as accessibility. We are actually higher than some towns in our area. Most towns are at the town office. That's the only place you can buy other towns are ahead of us and they allow sales at the transfer station, or there's one vendor or one town that has a vending machine in their town in store. I did look at the options as far as electronic. I think it's gonna be very expensive. You have to have really good Wi-Fi. You have to put a lot of computers to it for stuff at the transfer station to have like a way to scan them. A lot of the folks that I've heard from in town want cash and want the available. They don't have the tech. They don't have a smartphone. It's going to it's a lot of money to invest in something that's not going to serve the people that are affected the most by not having cash sales in a store. That makes sense. There are like outside the box, there's really big things that could change. You could get rid of the way it's set up, have paid for in taxes by everybody. You could not have a facility. You could have a private facility in town. You know, take a contractor to come in and run that privately. These are way above anything that I could actually recommend or discuss without a lot of research and a lot of study.
I think we're a small town. We have 3 villages or 3 towns in this facility. We have to make a reasonable attempt to help people be able to access permit stickers. One thing is mail in. They can mail in a check. People still do that. The ones that use cash might be more comfortable mailing in a check with a self-addressed stamped envelope. Comes to the office, they open it up, they put a receipt in it, and they throw a couple of cards in, and mail it. Some towns do that with a lot of success. I don't want to overtalk. I mean, it's pretty comprehensive and a little unbalanced, which even further. You have bag tags. They're little tags you buy instead of a punch card. You come over here and you buy 10 bag tags and you put the tag on your bag, and the attendant just checks if you have the tag, it goes in the trash. If you don't, it doesn't. It eliminates punches, but you still have to have accessibility behind them. The other option is trash bags, special trash bag that you can use, but that doesn't take care of C&D unless you're going to get a big contractor bag that they have to buy. There's other options. There's a weight-based system with scales. That's another big investment. There's mobile packs, credit card vending machines, private dollar subscriptions, which people are starting to use, and find that the more we charge to get rid of trash, but we're not charging for the recycling yet. People might get a private contractor to come in and pick their trash up at their house, but still bring their recycling. And that'll really offset. That'll really change the job. So I don't know how you want to move forward. I would suggest maybe looking at a vending machine we could put somewhere. I know the post office in Perkinsville at Downers is open. That lobby is open. There is a camera in there. It's open 24/7. Maybe that owner would be willing to let us put a vending machine in there. If it is not cash, I would not recommend using a cash vending machine because that's like an ATM sitting at Downers and somebody's making this later to decide it's there. People just want to go forward. I know that a lot of people have kind of figured out the punch card thing with Downers being gone. I'm not seeing a lot of social outcry on Facebook and stuff as much as it was. So maybe people are realizing it's not as difficult to get punch cards going elsewhere.
It appears to me, looking at the finance report, usually it says more people are going to towns and offices.
How do you explain such a drop in the ticket to Weathersfield?
It's not dropped, it's the same.
According to this report, the revenue from punch.
The revenue is gone down. They're not getting the punches. So we're not selling cards across the board on all 3 towns. People are buying, instead of going to Downers to buy a card, they're going to their town office in Reading and West Windsor and buying a card there.
So what are you saying they're doing at Weathersfield?
Same thing. The revenue's down overall.
It's confusing the way it's presented. There are 3 different paragraphs what each town is doing, and you're saying one of those is different than the other 2, but it's not presented.
I can explain that a little more detail. So, Weathersfield punch ticket revenue used to include the revenue that we received from Downers store. So when Downers store stopped selling punch tickets, the users from Reading and West Windsor were no longer buying those punch tickets from the store, which means Weathersfield punch ticket revenue line wasn't receiving anything. Instead, those users.
Price is down strictly because Downers, the other 2 have gone up because they've gone to other places.
They don't show us.
Oh.
They'll show you their sales
No.
because they're buying.
And unfortunately, the overage in those 2 towns doesn't cover.
No, because what's happening now is people are being under punch. So
Can you explain that a little bit more? I know C&D has always been a problem, but what else?
So there's several issues that it could be. It could be people throwing my stuff and leaving without being caught. It could be people have what they have in their vehicle and they make an estimate and they punch. It could be people that are arguing more than others and they're just punching to get things through the cycle and keep moving. It could be we get charged by the weight at the facility to get rid of stuff. We're charging by the volume.
Buy by the bag.
So
pay by
if it's a bag, the truckload of insulation, and you're charging 10 punches for a truck, or a truckload of cinder blocks and really heavy stuff, you're still charging 10 punches for the truck. So there could be a bunch of different things that are causing that to happen. The one thing we have control over is to speak to the attendants and make sure they are punching properly.
I have heard that this past weekend punches per load has increased. Right, the weekend saying punched more than usual.
And in the employee's defense, anytime there's a cost increase in the buying punch cards, people become extremely vocal at the facility. So it becomes really, really hard to argue with everybody that shows up, the line of people there. And I tell them not to argue with anybody, because he just came through and we'll try to keep figuring it out later. They can know who they are, we can talk to them if we can. And I'm not standing there trying to tell arguing with somebody, and 10 people are in line waiting to go through either. So every time you have an increase in sale cost, if people get more vocal and push back harder, argue how much they're being charged.
So the staff at the transfer station can stand some support
It's
and some know-how to deal with these situations, or extra staff when you know the cost is going to go up. There could be extra people there to help out for that transition period.
Yeah.
That would help.
There is a lot of times where there are certain people out there in the world that take advantage of the situation, and they wait until it's really, really busy. They go in for their stuff
But I don't think that could account for the amount of money
that's a factor that we really can't control with the staff we have when it is really busy. That some revenue could be disappearing that way. I think a lot of it has to do with not arguing with people, becoming complacent a little bit on what we charge for each item. Your guesstimator is off, and the volume as opposed to the way it is. There's a lot of guessing there. There's times where you're pretty busy and it's hard to guess right.
So training, support, extra staff.
And then one thing so we know we're not.
We're going to start Wednesday. Meeting this weekend, and so at the end of the year, again, there's going to be deficit working on it, which we can see.
It's an action by this board. Increase that, see our staff.
And it traditionally does what happens. Anytime you want to, and it's really hard for them to argue with 200 to 300 people a day. Some people will argue to us.
What our previous total punch card sales were, number of punch cards sold throughout the 3 towns. Before Downers closed, and now, how big? I understand that the revenues are down, but how big a shift is that in the total numbers of cards, of punch cards sold in the 3 towns?
It's hard to track that. How long ago was the increase as opposed to how many people bought a lot of tickets at the lower cost, and then as soon as they run out, they'll start buying more. Is that, is last fiscal year, do they still have cards from June that they went and bought $300 worth? Because they knew it was going to go up. I mean, it's hard to track.
Right.
So I don't mean to be vague.
No,
There's so many variables in the facility. I mean, the solutions, but they all cost a lot. And how much of an investment do you want? How much is desired? Do you want to either go any deeper into any of these options and look at anything, or do you want to? I guess I'm at the point where this is when you.
I think as long as we buy by the bag and pay by the pound, we're always going to have.
Yeah, you're charging for the volume.
What you're proposing for now is reasonable. There's some extra training and support for the staff. I'm sorry? What's proposed? To keep doing what we're doing. I'm proposing that we continue what we're doing, but add and training and support for the staff and stuff.
What is support from state?
How they handle controversial or confrontational situations where they do when there's a long line of people and there's only one person there. Sometimes you don't know the words. I mean, we get stuck with that in a board meeting when there's somebody gets up and is really angry. You have to know how to keep your cool and what words to say in a situation. Do our staff at this transfer station have the skills? I don't know. And you tell them don't argue, just send them through.
Theory. You can find the people, give the license plate number, do whatever you can.
Do we follow up with those people?
A lot of times they don't get the information once they go through.
Exactly. So
So I'm going to start by saying that I've been sitting here now for probably 6 or 7, maybe 8 years, and this is coming up almost every year. That we're not balancing the budget for some reason or another. So I'm sorry, but to continue doing the same thing and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. Okay, there needs to be a fix. We have to figure that out. It's our job. So you said you looked into scales and that's expensive. What type of scales did you look into?
Well, the most practical scale would be one that they drive the car on and goes the car. And when they drive on again, when they leave, it moves the car. And you can charge for the difference.
Okay. How do you see what's most practical?
Short of having a scale at everything you charge for and having to unload your pickup of sheetrock, put it on scale, and then put it back into the container.
Okay.
Another option would be to make them bag everything, nothing loose anymore.
Did you consider the options to not do C&D?
Yes, but C&D, when done properly, is a revenue, and the overage that you're supposed to get for that helps offset the
we could always bring it back after we solve the initial problem. If
we discussed
we could temporarily set it aside if we chose to see if we can figure out a way to get at least through the the mainstream stuff. Because the other problem, if you go with a weighing system, what if somebody's coming in with half a season or a winter's worth of recycling? They've got to go get rid of that first because we don't charge for it, right?
You would.
Or you would.
You'd charge. Everything comes in, gets charged, and whatever goes out.
So what was the cost of the system?
Preliminarily, it's anywhere from like 50 to 80,000.
So
whether or not you put a roof on it, they would be able to.
So is C&D our big problem right now, or is it not? Can you put your finger on it? Maybe you can't.
C&D seems to be the biggest problem. It could be trash, isn't it? Trash doesn't seem to be as low as C&D. It seems like we're not getting enough punches to cover the C&D.
There's a waiting station in Springfield that anybody can use buying tickets. It's not that far from it. It's 4 or 5 miles from that. If that Springfield's recycling center, they do it by weight. They weigh it in. And there's Alva down by the interstate that actually does our stuff. And you can go there on his days and C&D. With C&D. Yeah, there's ways for C&D to be handled. If that's a problem for us, maybe we should get out of it. That's my first assessment. And then when you're left with weighing trash bags that are coming in, I just looked up scales that if you've ever been to the vet, they weigh scales like that, but they actually have a class that is they call washable or something like that. They term it washable. It's for use in something like this where it can be pressure washed and not damaged, and it's a digital scale. You would only use that at the for your mainstream waste and not change anything as far as I'm concerned with what you're doing with recycling, because we cover our recycling costs in the punch ticket that we punch on the mainstream waste. So,
I just have a quick comment. So the deficit concern doesn't concern me too much anymore. So when we started this deficit reduction line, I'm just going to use rough numbers. I believe the deficit at the time was right around 225,000. And what we did with the three towns, we had a transfer station committee meeting, and we discussed how we're going to resolve the deficit going forward. So we put it 225, and we agreed to divide it by 7 years, which equaled roughly, like I say, $32,000 a year. So this year, let's say we budgeted 32,000 in the transfer station budget to reduce the deficit of 225, right? But this year, let's say we end in deficit of $25,000. So we only really chipped away at 7,000 of the original deficit. What we do is we take the original deficit, reduce it by the 7,000, that equals 218,000 in 6 years. So now we're going to budget in year 2, in FY27, $36,000 in the deficit reduction line. What that did was it increased the amount of the deficit reduction line item by a few thousand, which equates to a $1.29 increase on the permit sticker in Weathersfield. So we're only talking about another $1.29 to the permit sticker, settling the deficit over 6 years without having to buy a scale and spend tens of thousands of dollars.
so I'm not talking about tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
It was $1,100 for one of those scales.
Yeah.
They started about $1,100.
The thing is that bothers me is that we'll have gotten rid of that debt by year 7, but we're still making debt on the other end.
Yes.
What happens in year 8?
So we're not.
By year 8, we won't be generating any deficits.
No, because
How does that work? If we can do that, why can't we do it now?
we're doing that now.
Well, that's
We're doing that right now.
well, yes and no. I mean, you are, because you created the deficit reduction plan. But as you just got done saying, if we run a $25,000 deficit this year, then we're not paying the deficit off the way we intended to. So then you renegotiate it and readjust the following year.
Until you find the balance and you continue readjusting. So in year 3, let's say you end up in a deficit again, but let's say it's 20,000, then you chip away the deficit, sure, and then you take that cumulative deficit and you divide it by 5 years. And the permit sticker might increase further and further and further until it's settled. Once you have it at 0, you're constantly putting the prior year's deficit into that line item, keeping the budget stable. With all the variables at the transfer station, it's nearly, I mean, we've spent hundreds of hours on the transfer station.
I know.
We've tried every
No,
solution we
no,
can
we
think of
haven't.
except for scale.
except for redesigning or rethinking how we do it. We haven't done that.
Springfield has a scale,
Springfield does.
but you go up to the C and D pile, they don't fix it. So they require taking everything out of your car, putting it on the scale. So they typically guesstimate, but what they do is they budget in their general fund for a deficit.
Okay.
So every year they have a budget like 60,000 in the general fund, and then when they land, they transfer that to the solid waste fund and make it whole, and then move forward.
I did a survey 10, 15 years ago that showed support for keeping, people want this transfer station. I never did one that said, do we have to do C and D? And, just C and D is dragging us down. Maybe we could pause that for a while, like I said, and see if we can figure out the rest of it and get it on track. And maybe that's with or without a scale. But maybe at least take some sort of. I guess what I'm saying is, it seems like the solution means an increase in cost every year, and that doesn't seem to go away. Even after we pay off the deficit, following years, we're going to have a number that we have to put in there that's going to continue to change moving forward to keep up with it. And it just seems to me it would be better when we need to run it back. I also want to support a couple of the notes I made. Number one, I do think, in talking to the guys over there, first you brought it up, there needs to be another individual working over them. And I think I pointed it out before. I think it was $17,000 roughly that we were, paying the store to sell these tickets?
750 a month.
Okay,
A little under 2 months. Frankly.
right, well, so we've got some money that we're saving if we're not doing that, that goes towards those wages. So we're not, it's not like we're gonna be out, you know, and it's part-time. I'm not the chair, right? So I just have to wait till I'm done talking.
That's since we've already fixed the permanent sticker costs and the allocations of million towns. It's just gonna put us further into a deficit at the end of the year, just with increasing expenses. We could start that in FY27, or we could start at
I'll leave the management process up to you guys. I just support bringing, you know, the staff feels overwhelmed. I think that we do need to consider moving.
He put his hand down. Going to wave his hand, you know. I guess he's done talking. I guess you can have turn.
So we're discussing two different things here. So the report that I was asked to do was how to sell punch cards or make a different system to make it more accessible for the public. So if I could just get some input on that real quick, and then we can get. You just want to get this done, and we can get this. If you.
So when I said to stay the same, I meant selling tickets at the town office.
That's what I was assuming. Do
The
you
town office and wherever we sell them, we could just continue to do that.
have any interest in self-addressed stamped envelopes, making that a possibility for people who could send in a check for an envelope bidding? And
That's not something I would, I think that depends on whether staff is willing to do that. That would, to the town office.
I think we should sell them at select board meetings. Maybe have a lot more participation.
What about the liquor store? They're open 7 days a week, 10 to 7. That might be.
the issue seems to be it's further away from the transit.
Just on this side of town.
I just had a quick question. I believe we checking on they had a vending machine. Sounds like a marvelous idea to me to put a vending machine right there. I don't know how many times I've been there and realized I didn't have enough punch cards, and it was like you take like that and the picture next side or punch one piece of paper, and you guys are always honest bring back with it. That sounds like a marvelous idea to me right there. Okay, worry about that, another page or a locking page and then they lock it out.
If it was a credit or debit machine, it wouldn't have cash in it. So if it was credit card or debit card, it wouldn't have cash in it. It wouldn't be credit or debit.
That's funny.
If there's a huge push that people wanted it to be cashed, then you have a security issue. There's different costs associated. I'm not posing them at all. I agree 100%. But a vending machine at that facility that you heat, you have to get an outdoor vending machine, which is
You build a cage around it now. Cameras, cage, I mean, we did, set up power plants, they sent it to the country, and we left, thousands of dollars worth of food plants in, where everybody's, I mean, some of these neighbors at the Patsy Lucis neighborhood, we put power plants in, and, we never had a problem, because we built a cage around it with a couple of big padlocks on it, and, most people aren't carrying bolt cutters around with them.
I was talking about the cost of a cold weather vending machines. It's a good option. I just need to know if you guys are wanting me to pursue any of this stuff.
I think it makes sense to be able to get them at the site and get the no cash on site. Like that makes a lot of sense to me. I would love to explore the actual cost of having
Seldom to the site.
That's what I mean. In some way and digital makes sense, right? It's okay to move in. A lot of people, yes, some people do cash still. But it makes sense to be able to sell them at the site. And if the vending machine probably will pay for itself. Yes. It would sure be a lot easier to show up and forget your tickets and get them there. I mean, I know it's just not the two of us who've had that problem. That's my guess.
Or you get there, you're realizing your kid, it's way more confusing.
Could the vending machine be at the transfer?
Yeah, it'll cost more initially because you have to have all of the rest of them. It's meant for cool.
Check out the price on it. Check out the price.
I can also get a hold of, Londonderry and ask how theirs, when they have theirs in the grocery store. Yes. You want to get back into the other stuff? I have a couple of thoughts.
Do you want to also check with whoever owns the building where the Weathersfield post office is
I haven't done that.
and just see if that's even a possibility to use that property? And I think for people who, for whatever reason, want to pay cash, well, we're offering them that as an option. Maybe they can deal with the inconvenience of having to come down to town hall to buy.
And I really don't think like it's self-just state that will for the amount of people. I mean, like that, it's not going to be overwhelming to have a car park and will show up, you know, and fix it out. It's need huge.
Just in the interest of time, the discussion about how to solve deficit issue at the transfer station wasn't going to. No. So I don't think we should. This was just about.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's what, I was gonna bring up, on the vending machine, one of my suggestions was that you don't have to have a machine that's pretty loaded with product. All you have to have is, other than paper, it can be a printer. So you pay and it prints, so there's no cash in it, and there's nothing to see.
It's not like a lot of the machine.
Yeah, no, it's, what is it, copyable? I don't want it copyable.
Okay. It would be the same punch tickets and turn that, I'm assuming.
You can have that like the cigarette machine where you know you get the D12 and have those sticker things in it. You can have or you have like a lottery machine, you go to the store, you put it in the lottery vending machine and it spits out just like a ticket. You know, paper tickets, it looks like a punch card and you can punch it, but it has like a barcode on it or whatever, so you can't copy it.
Well, I mean, any hospital parking lot.
We don't know until we like research.
Has some kind of gizmo.
Okay, let's check it out. Put it on.
I'll work on that stuff.
Yeah, deficit reduction, I agree with them, it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, I would.
Would you guys like to add to a future agenda?
Okay, this next thing on the agenda, FY24 audit presentation. Is this you, Mr.
It's
Hyde?
me, yes, I'm sorry, I'm still trying to get that, we don't take a lot of money on this. So, first thing I should say is this is the FY24 audit. It's not the audit for last year. It's the audit that ended the year ending June 30th, 2024. So while it's important to have it done, it's late and it's old. So if you, when you look at the numbers, those are old numbers and they've changed a lot since going forward. They've changed, you know, assets and liabilities, fund balance is all different today. So don't take a whole lot of stuff in that. It's a presentation of the transactions in 24 that haven't changed. But just so you don't get too excited about how much money there was a surplus or whatever, that's old news. Okay? So I think you folks all have access to it because it was in the packet. Anybody is interested in reading a copy following years, riveting stuff, exciting. I'll try to go through this fairly quickly and if you have questions we can go deeper. So you folks don't have a couple of attachments, unfortunately, but I think you do in your packet. So the first thing that's there is a letter addressed to you folks, to the Selectboard. And that 3 or 4 page letter is simply a requirement that the auditors tell you about what their responsibilities are in performing the audit. So they're just telling you what they're supposed to do. There's some weasel language in there that says, you know, we may not find everything, and we're not to blame if we don't find the best. And then the second thing, which I'd rather wait to the end to go over, is a 2-page management plan. So we'll just skip that for a minute. If you can scroll down to the actual audit and come to page 1 of the audit, it's a good way to start on page 1. So one of the things that's important to know is, did we sort of pass the audit? The auditors will tell you there's no such thing as passing the audit. They give you what they call an adverse opinion, then I think every resident in the town is going to think we failed. So, second paragraph, first sentence. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements referred to above present fairly and in all material respects the respective financial position of the government activities. That's what you want. That's the passing grade. Okay. So we passed, if you will, the audit. We met that requirement. So that's good to know. If you are interested, on page 5 through 12 is what's called a management discussion and analysis. So we, the municipality, the business being audited, is required to write a summary summarizing, supposedly in plainer English, more plain English, what's in the audit and what the finding points are. So supposedly that's a more readable summation of what's in the audit. We generate that. I'm not sure that publishes anything, but if you only wanted to read a few pages, you could read that. So I'm going to skip through maybe a little quickly, maybe not as quick as you think it should. But if you have questions, just raise your hand or page 17 is important. Again, this is as of June 30th, 2024. This is the balance sheet for the town, the balance statement for the town. It shows what our assets are, what our liabilities are, when our assets are greater than our liabilities, and we have something left over, which in fund accounting and governments and accounting is called your fund balance. And it's broken out with our major funds, the general fund, highway fund, some other funds you probably don't recognize quite as readily. And then we have a bunch of little tiny funds that are all kind of grouped together in the column that says other governmental funds. We've broken out in pages 60 and 70, and you can look at the details if you want to. So go down to the last grouping on the page, or next last grouping on the page, which is fund balances. That's the amount of assets, the amount of money, if you will, that the town has on hand, or had on hand as of June 30th, 2024. And there are 5, can't be simple, right? 5 different categories of fund balances. Some have more flexibility in them than others. Here's a non-spendable fund balance. You have assets, but you can't spend them mostly because they're prepaid expenses. Sometimes we have to pay expenses in advance of the start of the next year. Like employee insurance is a good example. You always have to pay your dental, health, life insurance bills the month ahead of time. So we've already paid for July and June. That's not an expense in this year. That's a prepaid expense, so we don't charge out till next year. So it's an asset, if you will, and you can't spend that money because it's gone in July. There's restricted, which is basically money, the use of which is defined by statute or a granting organization. You have a limited ability to spend money only within the confines of the law or the person who granted you the money. So you're restricted. Committed funds, a lot of our committed funds are reserve funds. The voters in town have voted to spend this money in a particular way for a particular reason. They can always vote something differently in the future, but that's money that's committed. Signed money is basically money that you folks might have a particular reason for spending it. Oftentimes, you'll use some of the prior year surplus to help reduce the tax rate in the coming fiscal year. That's a signed money. And finally, what's left over is what they call unsigned. That's money that has no particular purpose. It's just there and available for, within certain reasonable boundaries, pretty much anything you want to do.
In that same line, under other governmental funds, it says $31,175 is in parentheses.
Parentheses means a deficit.
How is that possible?
You can always have deficits. And
I don't understand.
well, I mean, basically, a deficit in a fund, it means that what you have on hand is less than what you need. So then you have, there's more, it's less than what you own. So to see where that comes from, we're gonna have to go up to pages 65 to 72 and try to figure out exactly what that particular thing is, because there's a number of smaller funds that are all merged together on this particular page.
Did you ever look at that, Steve?
Specifically today, when I was reviewing this, no.
Looking at the audit for what it is, my guess is that this could be commitments we made for flood damage or that type of thing.
Actually, I think you hit the nail on it. You did, because FEMA reimbursed us. And again, this is old stuff. In 24, FEMA was only reimbursing us 75% of our expenses. So that's exactly what that is. Thanks for reminding me, or jogging my memory. So that's FEMA money. We spent the money. FEMA sent us 75%. So we were in deficit until the whole thing was going to be over and done with, and then we would have covered our share. A lot has happened since then, so we don't really have a local share to that anymore. So then similarly, if you go to page 19, this is, the format is the same on this page. Instead of doing your assets, liabilities, this is your revenue and expense for that particular year, for 2024. How much money came in for each one of those funds, how much money you spent, and then toward the bottom, the third line up from the bottom, net change in fund balance. Essentially is, did you run a profit or a loss? Did you have a surplus or a deficit? So you can see the general fund in 2024 had a $66,000 surplus. Highway fund had almost $13,000 surplus. Capital reserves, $137,000 deficit, but that's all dependent on when we put money into the reserves versus when we buy a fire truck or a piece of highway equipment or have some other major expense. So it's not unusual for that fund to have big surpluses or big deficits. Then we talk a lot about solid waste. So solid waste is a different animal from everything else because solid waste is what's called a proprietary fund. Used to call it an enterprise fund, but they changed the term. It's basically, it's a business, supposedly, that the fees charged cover the expenses. So this is accounted for more traditionally like the business. So on pages 21 through 23, where the auditors cover the solid waste fund. And looking at that quickly on page 21, if you go down towards the end, there's a section called net position. And at the end of fiscal year 24, we had a reserve fund of just over $70,000 that was for solid waste. And that exists for two particular reasons. One is we're required by law to have an amount of money set aside for closure of the solid waste, which I believe is about $25,000. And the rest of the money is money that's available for replacing the equipment
in the solid waste facility uses. And then we have an unrestricted fund balance, which is the deficit of the solid waste system, at least 18 months ago, of about $129,000. And FY24 was not a good year for the solid waste, as you may remember, because I think that year the loss was about $58,000. So it wasn't exactly a big year. Moving on quickly, if you're interested in curing your insomnia, pages 26 through 61 are the footnotes. And there's lots of good stuff you can read about other post-employment benefits and retirement systems and so let's two more things, and then you can stop me or ask some questions. If we go to page 76, so this is the independent auditor's report on internal controls, on financial reporting, and on compliance with other matters. So, do we have a system of internal controls that's free of any major weaknesses? And do we comply with essentially GASB auditing standards or state or federal standards? So, we answer that question on page 77. And toward the end of the paragraph at the top of that page, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be a material weakness. So it's a good thing. If we have material weaknesses, they didn't find them. So, and then a couple of paragraphs later, the results of our tests, they're testing out for compliance. The results of our test disclosed no instances of non-compliance. So that's a good thing. And then finally, there's another level of things that they could find, which they consider to be of less importance than material weaknesses or non-compliance. And those are the things, circling back to the beginning, that come at a management level, where it's auditor's advice that, hey, you're probably not doing this exactly right. You should improve it or change it in some way. So they found three things in the management level that they want us to work on. One was general ledger reconciliations, one was cash receipts, and one was cash disbursements. So quickly, without going into a lot of accounting, we should be reconciling all of our general ledger accounts at least on a monthly basis. And we do many of those, right? You're going to reconcile your bank statements once a month. You've got accounts payable. You're going to make sure it matches the bills that are unpaid. You've got accounts. And if you've got accounts receivable, you're going to match the outstanding invoices. So you go through a whole series of different accounts, everything in the general ledger, and those should all be balanced at the end of every month. We don't do that. We do one of the most important ones, but we don't currently have the expertise and time to do all of it. And I think a lot of that, without saying anything bad about any current staff members, a lot of that dates back to the fact that we've had 6 accountants, bookkeepers over the course of the last 6 years. The finance director was on top of doing this, but with that much turnover, with that amount of time, you're really relying on your treasurer to do all of this, and your treasurer works 50 hours a week, so there simply isn't the time available to make sure that everything is reconciled every single month. But we do as much as we can, but we need to get better at it. Hopefully, given some longevity in the accounting position, we'll be much better. Cash receipts, auditors want us to get checks and cash out of here at least every week. The long-standing practice is to do that twice a month. So I'm somewhere between the rock and the other place, and we just continue to do it twice. And then cash disbursements, we didn't follow our own rules on purchase orders, and they caught us on that. So they want us to do a better job and actually do and follow the purchase order policy. So. And hopefully this year for 25 in February, we'll be back on time and we can talk about some more. Thoughts, questions?
Like,
Is there some way we can collaborate on the purchasing policy issues that we need to address? Like, so we can kind of get an idea of what it messed up.
We didn't do purchase orders when we should have.
Okay.
I can't give you, standing here, I can't give you any specific examples of that, because I'm not all that specifically involved in the purchase order process. But what they found was circumstances or instances where we should have done a purchase order and we didn't do it.
Just a purchase. More than just that purchasing policy. Is that all I'm looking for is the purchasing?
Right, there are certain thresholds at which purchase orders are required in the policy.
Right.
And we didn't do that on a consistent basis. We didn't, when we had purchases that reached or exceeded that threshold.
Because again, going back to the like floods and the emergency status that they had to deal with, I think there might have been a couple times we handled it under contracts or emergency status and didn't do that. So it would be helpful.
The policy allows for emergency exceptions.
Yes.
So I know there was when Patience was here, there was a effort to catch up with that.
We are doing purchase orders now. We did some. Basically, what this is purchase order is, let's say if the department of head designs something that's $6,000, they would rate their purchase on the purchase order, and they would send, and they present it to me, and then you would be placed. Those ones. Things in purpose, some more physically.
So easy thing.
The approvals for
Yeah, I should purchase. Getting through prices and that stuff is falling with the purchase.
When you have a purchase order, if it's over a certain amount, do you have to get a bidding process on it, as well as?
Yes, we do. Yep. We have a purchasing policy that spells all of that out. And we do follow it, but we did not do purchase orders for some of those.
There's a series of categories or a series of tiers that over a certain amount you need to get quotes, and over a larger amount you need to actually put it out to bid. So you can be more flexible with smaller purchases, but then as the amount of money raises, you need to be much more specific and much more intentional about who you buy from.
Questions for Mr. Meyer?
Job or also she's David Dan, but I'm sure she's juggling along with everybody now. So.
Do we now need to do another one of these audits for last year?
Yes.
So
They were here in October to do the field work, and they're working on a draft now.
Excellent.
So hopefully they say
there are fewer and fewer firms doing municipal audits, and the requirements for firms to qualify and be licensed to do this are increasing, and the number of CPAs, the number of employees are decreasing. So they're, to defend them, I guess I am, they're overextended and overbooked. But we're hopefully going to get a draft in December, which isn't too far away, and be able to present the final one to you in February, because we should do that before town meeting.
Are we using the same firm?
Yes. Yes.
Do we have a contract with them for a certain number of years or?
Yes.
And
Yeah, I know you're gonna ask me how many years are left.
It was 300 extended. You could just sign a new.
And I think when they were here the last time, we talked to them about timely processing. They were hoping to do better last year. We didn't.
thank you, Steve. Property health pedestrian improvement study, letter of support for Winston Roll as project manager.
Yeah, we got some turnover at work and we changed the project manager, getting a letter of support from the Selectboard. So with this agenda item, the view is approving the sign of and then the consent to the state. This would be official.
Do we want Otis to be the project manager?
Yeah.
We do. We have the, okay, I move that the draft and
Monroe as project manager for the Weathersfield pedestrian improvement study.
Letter's already written, all we have to do is sign it.
Oh, it's not finished. That we sign.
any discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Town manager update.
Still not.
Excuse me?
A lot of this. The next one was the trail. See it. Excuse me. It's nice and nice.
I heard you.
Ladder truck accident. So as you know. So you guys have a comparable for the truck. We still have not received the number that they'll pay out. We expect to receive it sometime this week or next week. And then once we have the information, we can discuss that. Our request for bids, the water main line replacement project has been advertised for bid. We've had notified from you guys about this a couple of weeks ago. Site visit is taking place and bids will be on December 18th. This project replaces 2,800 feet of water main, 3,150 feet of new water service pipe, and meters. And savings. Key contract. So back in 2021, we negotiated a 1% increase on the IT contract, which was fantastic at that time because then inflation hit, and the cost of getting the contract that expanded. So 1% annual increase that we're getting the CCI started at 5% and we settled at 2%. So I think that's really good. 2% increase per year. You want to buy anything like that, exactly. Yeah, I think we've got this in, if you want to take a look at it, if you have any questions, feel free to call me, or email me, or we can discuss it. So, okay. Okay, permit, USD engineering has completed the initial development of site plans. It's attached as attachment two, and they're currently working through an initial development of stormwater pollution prevention plan. Once that's done, they'll be commencing site visits. This time, we're going to finish the field service completed when you're saying that. Budget committee meetings, we have a special meeting on December 1st, which is next Monday at 6 p.m. We'll be going through the committee will reorganize, establish new meetings. Basically, all budgets are currently being drafted. The only time we saw based on budgets have been drafted. We're still waiting on insurance information, workers' compensation information, to finalize those budgets. We have meetings scheduled. So budget committee review salaries and hours.
Um, 2%. What's the actual, increase on that? For that?
Increase.
That has to be my team contract.
I think it equates to. $964.
And the other one is, I saw something on the BOPEC where, we're looking at getting this thing opened up next year. And we know this is being soon. And that's the issue. Is there anybody that we should be talking to that's involved at the state, to kind of follow along this process so they can see where its shortcomings are, like we do, or like applicants do, House reps, Senate reps, committee reps, is there an oversight committee? What, they would just kind of be like us with their hands and their eyes on going through the process with us so they can see what this is like. It just seems to me that, this I know Ray started on this back in 2022. It should have never came to this. And I personally don't think it was our fault. Can't get really any deeper into it than that. But I'd like to make sure that it seems like it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to cost people in this town a lot of money this year. And we took care of that. But they're saying it's not going to be ready until next year. That's not even a guarantee.
So I did issue a cumulative report to the land use review board, explaining, providing a detailed explanation of everything that happened since 2022. So they are aware of it, and they are looking to help fix the problem, providing utility and so forth. But I think, given what I've learned about it, I think there's shortages of staff everywhere, and maybe that piece was missing between us and them to give us the understanding of exactly everything we need to do to complete this process. That piece was missing. We would get to a point and they would stop, and they would send it back to us, and we get to another point and they'd stop and send it back to us. So I think that part could improve.
Something from the planning commission, as a planning commission, we're looking at a directive from Weathersfield to add 260 housing units in the next 5 years. To put that into perspective, 34 were added in the 10-year period. leading up to that. From 2000 to 2010, 34, or was it 2010 to 2020? Maybe it was 2010 to 2020, it was 34 houses, I believe, were added. So, to think that in the next 5 years, point is, zoning plays a big part in slowing that down. And if the housing you're looking at is gonna be any kind of, anything on greater than 10 acres, Act 250 is going to be involved, because that's commercial on greater than 10 acres. You're talking about housing developments, whether it's condos or whatever it is. They're not gonna have permits before 5 years. That's why I say, please, if there was somehow we can get somebody from the state that would like kind of walk along through this process with us, so they can see the failures in the system and maybe find a way to fix it.
I've got a question. What's that saying up there? Is there someone that's typing something up there to us?
Allison Roth says the sound quality is not very
Can you check the speaker and make sure that the sound is going through the it's a little microphone down. Hey, you guys hear us okay? Julie?
Can anybody on here hear us?
The audio's been challenging tonight, more so than I would say normal. A good
Sure.
portion of it's come through, but it's definitely bounced in and out.
Okay.
So to answer your question about the state rep thing, the only thing I would have for advice to give anybody that has any decision making in this is when they fix a problem by telling them they have a deadline once they accept an application and say they only have 60 days to get it through the system, that's wonderful. But the thing they do then is they never accept the application. So instead of giving us they didn't read the whole application and say, you need this, I don't know if it's a shortage of people or if that was a tactic. They would have instead of giving us a whole list of this, you need this, this, and this, they would read something, find something wrong, kick that back. 2 months later, you might get an answer.
Yeah.
And that's the tactic, because then I kept hearing, you don't have a completed application yet. The time clock has not started on this yet. They kept telling me that over and over and over again, and then I realized what they were talking about at the end was they didn't want it completed and had 60 days to finish it. That would be my feedback.
I thought we were gonna have a letter from the governor. And we had a day with State Natural Resources to describe this process, because he needs to know. He had said he would fix this. And we're still having, costing this town a lot of money. Staffing shortages, staffing incompetence on the 250 end of things, and we were gonna write a letter. And the first one you wrote was really nice, and then we decided we needed to get a little more direct, and it never happened, so.
I do have it, so we can put it on the next agenda.
I think he needs to know, we're not the only town that is struggling with permit issues. With 250 permitting issues.
The fix they came up with sounded really good in theory, but there's an easy workaround on that by not accepting that.
And if they're doing that because they don't have enough people, then that's something the governor should know. It's a state budget issue.
Okay. Any other questions for Brandon? Next item on the list, number 10. Vast request for landowner permission on Pleasanton Field.
Oh, I did have one question. Where is the budget committee meeting?
Here,
Okay.
it'll be upstairs in the upstairs conference room. There's a planning commission meeting at 6:30 down there.
Is the heat on for planning commission meeting?
The heat.
Check it.
Are you told?
They're getting colder.
So is it you that's doing this request for the permission for the Hoisington Field vast?
No, we received this letter in the mail. Requesting to use Hoisington Field. For snowmobiles.
Has it been used in the past?
Yes,
Is there a problem with it?
no, this is actually an,
Yes, sorry.
I can, there is, oh, he said yes?
Not a problem with something that could.
Could you speak to us about it?
I personally think this should go to Parks and Rec before it comes to us. Because that's a Parks and Rec, that's not us.
But it's town owned.
No, it's down on property.
Yeah, but they're the ones that are doing the planning for the field and what they wanna do with it. And I don't, go ahead.
The only, it's not an issue, it's always been a snowmobile trail across the backside of the property on the edge of the stone wall. They did move it out diagonally across the field. I think we should just ask them to flag the trail to try to prevent people from riding on the entire trail, on the entire field. Because what's happening is without it marked and with a sign to say stay on this corridor, they're tearing they're going around the whole field and eventually that will be a problem. I just think it'd be nice to have a corridor for them to use and that's all I would say.
Can we ask them to provide us with a map of what they plan to do, and then we're gonna say, you need to flag it before we say yes? Is that
Or they just,
possible?
I would just, I can list, I'm willing to work with directly with my neighbors with guidance and.
But I'd like to see a record of what they're proposing to use in the form of doesn't have to be a survey drawing, just, even though there is a
Usually
survey
they
drawing they
flag,
can
they usually
borrow.
just flag a corridor wide enough for the machines and the group.
But I'd like to see it on a map of the field, so that we know where they're entering and where they're exiting, and then require them to flag that before we give them that permission.
Mike,
Alright, so first and foremost, this. Yeah, this is the permission to use land. It's all landowners that allow Vast to use their property are asked to sign this. The Vast organization provides a $1 million, unless they've increased it or decreased it. Yeah, they've always provided a liability contract, insurance contract that protects the landowner from any liabilities during use and stuff. Permission is it's supposed to be done every year. They can do it indefinitely if they want, which I think they did on this one.
They're asking.
In the past, there used to be a bridge over there. Where the south entrance is to the parking lot. It was over the river to the left of that, where it comes out of the field, and that's Titcomb's Field, comes out of Titcomb's Field, and it used to cross a bridge. Well, the state stopped us from using like telephone poles and that kind of stuff, and the cost of putting in a bridge just went through the roof. I mean, it's like, putting an Interstate 91 bridge through there now. So they don't give the actual entrance to the school now, the south entrance to the school parking lot. But they always stayed like right along the edge of the
So the border with Dickham's property to the south.
Yeah, and there's the beaver pond and the swamp and stuff that's there, but they always stayed right there. And the other thing they did when I was part of that club was they used the snow fence. They put up a snow fence across there, so you came in and it wasn't just a flag, because you can drive between flags and people do. Put the snow fence across the field there. I believe they store the groomer at Kevin Hyden's, which is the big house just on the other side of the pavilion area there. So you see the machine sitting there all the time, and the trails. There's trails on this side and that side of 106. So, they've got to get to both sides. And that's.
I would just ask that they corridor off that last corner of the field.
Yeah.
I've heard from people in the neighborhood complaining about 3 o'clock in the morning, the headlights are flying around and they're buzzing around the field. And it's a simple request.
They shouldn't, that's always been an issue with snowmobiles.
Yep.
That's why we lose a lot of trails, is because people won't stay on the dad burn trails. They need to stay on the trails. It's. I dealt with a lot of that stuff. I was the president of the club for 2 years, and I dealt with a lot of that, of calls that, close the trail. And I'd spend a day talking them out of it, and so trying to find the
How
place.
can we approve this with stipulations?
But it's right there in the middle, it says permission is subject to the additional terms and conditions listed below, it's right in the middle of those blank lines.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
And I'm not in favor of giving it until further notice, and it's fine.
Yeah, 1 year.
Kelly, I also agree that just making sure, right, that it matches the planning that's happening on that space makes a lot of sense, just to make sure you run it past that group to make sure it's
Well, I think.
it sounds like it is, right? It sounds like we don't have a problem, but I do think as a
It
fund
wasn't
and
discussed
It
during
was
the master
discussed,
plan, and that's the area we're talking about, still letting them have that area, that's why the walking paths and stuff weren't part of that area.
Right,
Plus the, wetland delineation anyway,
right.
so it works.
so as
out.
long as that
I just thought-
sounds like that's already
It was taken into
taken
consideration.
care of then, but
I
Right,
just
but it was
wanted
a
to be
specific
sure.
location,
Yeah,
and that's why I want our permission
that needs to be on.
correspond to what that master plan.
Well, we could actually. We could actually okay it and accept it with the condition, we don't sign it until we receive the document that you're asking for.
Okay.
That way, and the reason I say that is to move it along. December 15th is the opening day of snowmobile season in Vermont, but we may not have any snow. We've only got only gives us one more meeting, but it just to move along. I agree, it's fine to have that, and we want the fence,
Yeah,
the snow fence.
Right, yeah.
keep them where they need to be.
and I only wanna do this in.
Yeah, now this can be just like a hand-drawn zoning map.
Absolutely, there's a survey map in the town clerk's office, you
Yeah.
can make a photocopy of that and draw it on there,
And,
whatever.
okay, and put a, and, yeah,
I did that.
show us where it's gonna be and
Yeah.
put a snow fence on that line.
Yeah. I'd be
Okay,
happy with that.
I'll make that motion, and we don't, and authorize the chair to sign it when that documentation's been received.
And make sure that it corresponds to what the master plan says.
There is a Parks and Rec meeting before your next meeting, so I can have that put on the agenda. Get their input. Which we've already talked about it once, we didn't have a problem, that's why we kept it in that.
Okay,
When's our next
Well, next-
meeting?
oh, we've got one before that, we've got
Can
one
we
before the
put this
15th.
off the 9th? Is that enough time to draw that map between now and our next meeting?
Yeah,
Should be.
So
it should
can we
be,
just delay that
it should
for
be,
2 weeks?
it should be.
Yeah, I don't wanna make an act of Congress out of this, but I do want it to be a little more specific.
Mike made the motion, is there a second on the floor?
I can second
Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed?
Wait a minute, what are we voting on? I thought we were gonna wait till the
Well,
next
we-
meeting.
Well, that just went down the road.
Yeah, it did.
Because we just voted to,
Yeah,
Just
you're right.
Accept it.
when the stuff comes.
you sign it when you have the documentation that has been asked for.
Yes,
So we don't have to go back here at the board
yeah.
with it.
Like
that's only gonna be for 1 year.
Yes.
One year.
Only 1 year.
That's correct.
Well, they've actually got it on here as,
Until further
We don't
notice.
want that.
yeah,
I want that too.
yeah, just tell them they want, it's supposed to be every year according to the
Yeah.
vast. Program, but
Yeah.
But landowners quite often will do that, they'll say, we don't wanna be bothered every year.
problem.
They'll let you know when there's problems.
Maybe after a year or two, if things are consistent. we
Yeah, I'm
can
fine,
say
I'm fine.
to
I'm fine with that, so.
Okay. Number 11. The Declaration of Inclusion discussion. Okay. This was asked to be put on the agenda for this week. So I'm not sure what it is that we're discussing.
I think Julie Wright came to the board and asked us to discuss signing it.
Who did?
Julie Levy. Julie, I'm not sure if you can hear us.
Could you repeat that, please?
You, this is discussion about the Declaration of Inclusion, do you want? Where you wanted to bring it to the board to have us, to discuss it, to have us sign this?
Yes, I brought it to the board 2, 3 weeks ago, a month ago,
Yep.
and asked that it be signed so that on the state maps, it can be indicated that Weathersfield is in agreement with the governor's statement.
If the board agrees to sign this, Julie, where does it go from here? Does someone convey it to the keeper of this map, or how does that happen?
Yes, it gets conveyed to the
By whom?
website that can indicate on the map that Weathersfield has signed it.
And who does that?
The person that's been most active with the organization is Susan Wilder. We can put her, she's away tonight, but we can put her in contact with Brandon if it's the wish of the board to sign on to it and to have that indicated on the internet.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I guess I would have a question. I just wanna know why the people would think that us as a board of 5 should decide what everyone in the town of Weathersfield should think. Okay, I'm not fully against it, and I'm not for it. I just don't. My son had to buy a place in Springfield and couldn't find a place in Weathersfield. I guess I just fully don't understand why we as 5 should decide on the whole town.
Well, I guess from my perspective, right, nobody's making a decision, right? It's just making a statement that we are a welcoming community that doesn't discriminate. It's just a statement that affirms that's what we are as a community.
Where's the statement that says that we're not? That we're is this an answer to, are we saying that other people are something that are not welcoming?
I'm not saying that.
I think I've been, since this project was initiated, there are 100 and something towns. 126. Around the town around the state that have signed it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it actually changes anything per se. I think it's more a statement saying, because we are such a lily white state.
Okay.
That says that's not necessarily how we mean to continue. We want to.
I'm offended by that statement.
Well, sorry,
I have a question. That statement is not the statement that the other towns are signing. Somebody edited this statement, so I just have a question about that specifically.
Yeah, if you'd like to stand up
I
there.
just had a question.
Yeah,
I have a comment.
Well, I just wanted to ask.
I want your wife to get up and talk first. Okay, yeah, hands up first.
Ma'am.
Thank you.
I just had a question about the statement specifically. I also have a statement, but I'll leave that to, it might answer itself when as this discussion goes along. But specifically, this doesn't match both what the governor said in his statement, and it also doesn't match what's on the Democrat website and the promotion website for this statement, because specifically the socioeconomic status doesn't exist on those statements, and that specifically causes some real concern for me. And if we could define that before we even move forward, that would be great. And we'll start there.
Could you elaborate on that concern?
Sure. Town of Weathersfield welcomes all persons of any socioeconomic status. So what does that mean, and why would you vote to make that decision? What policy does that associate with, and what policy does that create to establish which status? The upper class, the middle class, the lower class? That's really vague. Are you saying that what classes are not welcome now that you are trying to welcome into the community now, and how will you do that? So this statement is a loaded statement that insinuates in their website. It also includes comments that this is only phase 1. Phase 2 goes into changing your policies, reviewing all of our committee, our employee packets, everything to amend it to be more, I guess, equitable or less discriminatory, which aren't we doing that already? We're going through the town agenda now. We're doing the employment policy that specifically addresses that. Why do we need this on top of it? So if that's just my specific concern is whoever, I don't know if it was Julie or someone else, but somebody added socioeconomic status that is not a protected class. So I guess that's my first concern.
August?
Well, I wanted to actually ask if they get this answer, since you're discussing this, what that means.
I don't know what it means.
So, I mean, so we can be more informed, I don't know.
My comments are more policy based. So I probably have about 2 minutes. We both read quite a bit on this. So Chair O'Brien, members of the Select Board, I want to briefly highlight why the governor's proclamation on inclusion and the proposed town declaration are not the same. And why adopting such a declaration carries hidden consequences. This isn't just endorsing a statement that the governor is completely different. That's misconstrued. It has consequences for our town. It's not just a declaration. It's part of a broader political implementation plan. And an example of that, if you go to the website, Vermont Declaration of Inclusion, they have a goal. And it means adopting means formal approval by the municipality's governing body, that when you adopt this, formal approval by the select board. It means the enactment and furtherance of plans, policies, programs, procedures, and relevant training. The purpose, I'm just summarizing. Vermonters are not fully aware of the systemic bias. So this is a partisan, it's a private group that prepared this. They probably liberal, there are conservative groups, there are liberal groups, but this is a partisan private group. And they feel that there's systemic bias. And they want to town by adopting this, an acknowledgement that there's systemic bias. That that the problem is our society.
Speaking, I can't.
Follow-on things are really important, and I'll get back to my statement. Implementation. Areas that I had concern, you can see I underlined in red. There's not just in-depth implementation, there's ongoing implementation. By adopting this, the implementation goals are to form an inclusion committee with a mandate from the town to guide the effort. Policies, programs, ordinances, proceedings, a modest annual budget, reviewing economic development, recruitment, and employment policies. Haven't we had enough partisan issues in Vermont? We don't need to draw Weathersfield into partisan politics. Reviewing economic development, recruitment, do we want to have everything through a lens? It says implicit bias training for city and town staff. That's part of the implementation plan. Assessing current work environment for town employees. What does that mean? What happens next? Urging local schools, nonprofits, corporations to do bias training. Do we really want that to be a mission for the select board and a committee that form? Ongoing implementation. Once again, committees, local contacts to work with this. This is a private group. This didn't come from a state or municipal organization. So I'll get back to my statement. Governor Scott's proclamation is purely ceremonial. It establishes Inclusion Week and reaffirms values of dignity and respect. Everyone deserves dignity and respect.
Yeah.
It creates no obligation, though, for towns. It adds no new legal standards, and it simply encourages Vermonters to treat one another with decency. Proclamations are very different than declarations. Create standards, they're aspirational. This is what we should strive for as Vermonters with each other. Declarations, however, if adopted by a town, can be grievances. Okay. The proposed town declaration establishes an operational commitment for goals and in-depth implementation. It requires the town to formally condemn, to commit, and to ensure all actions, policies, and operating procedures reflect this commitment. These are binding expectations. Once adopted, if adopted, they become a measurable standard of town performance. The declaration exposes the town to complaints and litigation. Any resident who feels that they were treated unfairly, and we're going through a reappraisal process right now, right? Because my socioeconomic status, I feel that you treated me unfairly. Now it's binding. Now I have recourse. Any resident who feels they were treated unfairly, permits, committee appointments, they can claim the town failed to uphold the standard it promised to ensure. Got about 1 minute left. There's also an addition of the which my wife mentioned, was the socioeconomic status. That category is not included in the governor's proclamation. And matter of fact, if you research Vermont law, you can't even find it because it's not defined. So you're agreeing to something that's not even definable. It's like word salad. Sadly, concerns of liability are not theoretical. By signing on to something like this, it's almost like someone else mentioned, it's like acknowledging like, oh, there's systemic bias in Weathersfield and we have issues with racism. I have seen BIPOC residents and I've seen disabled veterans experience discriminatory treatment by appointed and elected town officials. Sadly, even at Veterans Day, just a few short weeks ago, one appointed official confronted volunteers at the ceremony seeking to exclude certain veterans from being honored. That happened. If the town adopts language promising equal treatment in all actions and operating procedures, that becomes a written benchmark. Again, conduct can be judged. Whether intended or not, it opens the door to legal liability for the town. Finally, the town has no obligation to adopt statements drafted by private, out-of-town partisan groups. One of our founding fathers said, one man in the right is a majority. Well, you can be one select board in the right, and you can be a majority. You don't have to swim with the other fish around the state, 120 something odd towns, each town makes their own decisions. But you're not just signing an aspirational statement, you're buying very complex political in nature series of actions. Once you begin adopting political declarations, pressure will follow for more. Do we really want to go down that path? What happens if all the Republicans gang up or all the Democrats gang up and every 2 years the town decides to do some type of political declarations? I don't recommend it. Inclusion, however, there is a solution, and it's achieved through fairness, civility, and following the law. All men are created equal. We're protected by the Civil Rights Act. We're protected by the laws of our state. There's also, I forget if it's called Dillon's rule, maybe the town man, there's in VLCT in Vermont, municipalities can't enact something that is not prescribed by the Vermont state legislature. We don't want to get in that business as we're we have bigger fish to fry municipally. So for these reasons, I thank you for your time and I respectfully request the select board to decline any such partisan or politically motivated declarations. Thank you for your consideration.
Be nice.
I am. Actually,
your hands that went up about 20 times.
Well, I'm very
saw
sorry.
that.
I didn't, Patty Erson, I didn't come prepared to speak about this issue. This has been Julie and Susan Wilder's initiative, and I certainly didn't prepare.
Ma'am, point of order, you need to address the board, not the audience.
Yes. You have to address us, not him.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Well, I didn't come with a 2-minute prepared speech, but I just wanted to point out that when I look at the Vermont Declaration of Inclusion website, the wording is exactly the same. And I think it is simply aspirational, and I left my notebook over there, aspirational. There is a certain ceremonial quality to it. I don't think it's going to bind us into bureaucratic red tape, because all of the committees already have to take bias training, sexual harassment training,
other kinds of prejudice training. I don't think it's going to bind us to anything new. I think it's simply going to encourage us to seek our better selves, our higher angels. I think that it's nonpartisan. It is not. I don't know how to answer the language about a private group, but I can tell you that 164 towns in Vermont have already signed it. All the towns immediately surrounding us have signed it, and it certainly would make a statement it would certainly make a statement about the character of our town if we did not sign it. As I said, it's simply aspirational. It's simply something to encourage us to express our better selves. Thank you. I was nice.
Thank you.
I think Mrs. Harrison just pointed out that we already have all of this. I'm sorry, but that I don't see where a declaration changes anything. That doesn't say anything positive or negative about us, I don't think. I think we do that individually. I also did a lot of research on this. There are towns that adopted this quickly and didn't take them very long. Within several months, they were undoing it because of what August had read, the process that follows afterwards. There are steps that you're expected to do.
Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, policy changes. August already gave you those examples.
I meant the town.
Yes, the town, policy changes.
Which towns he's asking have declined or?
You'll have to look that up yourself. You should have already if you were thinking about doing this.
No,
You
you
should have
said
done some
they
research.
pulled out.
Yes, they did. They're listed they're listed on the website. Actually, I don't know if they're listed on the website, but what you look for is just look this up. Declaration of Inclusion, State of Vermont, and look at the discussions that are out there on this thing. I agree with Patty on being our better selves. We both can do that. Patty, we both can do that. You and I can both do that, can't we?
I have spoken to you about you to the Secretary of State. Good. The way that you point out the errors that you believe women in your audience make.
Excuse me?
I have. And that is one reason why
I'm
we need
offended by that.
inclusion.
Point of order. Members of the audience have to speak to the board.
And where did it begin, Mr. Murray?
I see this entire thing being a rerun of last year's election. It's gonna be divisive, it's gonna be a mess. I don't think it's good for the town. Period. I don't think it's necessary.
Mrs. Murray was that.
So the socioeconomic statement that I was referring to is from the governor's, not this specific one. Their previous version did not have socioeconomic. If you go into the historic, I don't know if do that, but the original where they posted their things, but it's certainly not a protected class. And it's a slippery slope. So, Chairwoman O'Brien, select board members, thank you for allowing me to speak. As one of the few persons of color in Weathersfield, I feel compelled to address this declaration of inclusion that's been brought forward for adoption. And I would say that the person that felt strongly enough to bring it forward is not present or, hasn't given a strong statement of why it's important. But this declaration is a superficial gesture of performative activism to support specific political ideology. This type of activism is when you engage in social justice action to promote an image or to feel good about yourself without any actual effect. The body is expected to be nonpartisan. The Vermont Democratic Party has a whole downloadable training packet for this specific agenda and this declaration on how to promote it, how to sell it, what to say, what questions you have. If somebody asks this question, but we're not racist, here's how you respond. It is a active agenda, and we are not supposed to be political. It includes long-term goals to move towns, following progressive agenda instead of being a nonpartisan policies that promote the well-being of all residents, regardless of their personal beliefs. There are countless laws, both state and federal, to ensure that all Americans are protected from discrimination. The person who wrote this declaration, I already discussed all of that. They also condemned discrimination in all forms. So I understand the governor said that, but can somebody explain what that means? Does that mean that this town will allow vagrancy on public property without recourse? Should we expect tents in the town hall and parks? Because it's a socioeconomic status, and if you can't discriminate against someone because they don't have a house, they can park it wherever they want on public property. Where does it end? Is there public drug use without consequence? We already see in Burlington the consequences of that safe use house. Having a young son, I'm horrified at the implications of welcoming crime and vagrancy into our small town. While just a few months ago, in complete contradiction, this same body presented a blighted property ordinance. Blighted, which of course, you know, that directly impacts socioeconomic status. So we can't have it both ways. This select board body right now is working on a political sign policy that, you know, without question, blatantly violates every single town resident's First Amendment rights of free speech. You know this because I brought it to the select board, the Supreme Court ruling on the matter. It is still on the books. So this isn't about equality or equal rights or equity. The new political sign policy, all because this Native American woman with the wrong political platform dared to step up to the plate, and I got pretty darn close. So close that some in this leadership is determined to silence anyone not like them, even though nearly 1,000 voters say otherwise. This declaration has the audacity to state that people of color like myself will be burning up the roads to get here. And that includes Bill Scott's idea that people are just going to race to get here because you announced that you acknowledge your systemic racism, that you will do better if we just bring our money, it'll be okay. Does that mean you'll stop calling me a flatlander? I doubt it. Vermont is well known to be one of the least welcoming states in this country. There's even a Saturday Night Live skit about this racism that's just is. There's just a predominantly white community, and that's okay. You don't have to be one way or another. That's just who lives here. It's not a big deal, at least not to people of color. The well-meaning white community all around me pat themselves on the back to form their committees and their social justice groups to find a way to help these poor BIPOC people to have some of this mysterious privilege that you take for granted, even if you can't define it. The reality is that all of this amounts to letting people of color know that you never can get ahead around here, no matter how hard you work. This body does not, and all of the people that are promoting this, does not fully understand just how racist this declaration is by constantly putting a sign on my back that my DNA defines who I am as a person, that I'm different, that I'm other, that I'm less than every one of you, and that I deserve to be patronized and uplifted to get extra support and extra help because I'm not good enough on my own. How dare you? This declaration has no purpose but to further divide our community and ensure that the far left politicized agenda will be pushed through our town government. You want a declaration? How about, for starters, Title 18, U.S. Section 242. You might want to write that down. It makes it a crime for any person, specifically federal, state, and local officials within their lawful authority, and to act under the color of law to willfully deprive a person of a right or privilege protected by the Constitution and the laws of the United States. That's what you should be talking about. That's what's important. We already have these laws. And I'm tired of people stepping all over the laws and the rights of citizens and thinking it's okay. The select board has some real challenges in this political climate with performing the duties you've been elected to perform and leaving your personal agendas and biases outside that door. I expect each and every one of you to represent the residents of this town with fairness, consideration, and respect to the belief systems that are different than yours. An affirmative vote on this declaration of inclusion is inexcusable and is a failure to the constituents that expect better. Thank you.
Elizabeth? Nothing, I've lost track of what I was gonna say. Go ahead.
Pretty quick. All I wanted to say.
I just want to make sure nobody else had anything to say.
Yeah, I'll be quick. All I wanted to say was that the Vermont Declaration of Inclusion is a grassroots effort working with community leaders to reinforce that message that Vermont is a safe and welcoming place for all. I really don't think that all of these underlying agendas obtain to this discussion. The website was designed by the Vermont Chamber of Commerce. So I think it's okay. I don't think it's dangerous in the way the way to which Andrea has directed her comments. But if she's right, and she may very well be right, that Vermont is the least welcoming state of all, then that means that signing on to this would be a good thing and a positive thing. It's simply saying that we're trying to move in the right direction, that we're trying to be nicer and kinder and better citizens.
I'm sorry, did you say Vermont's the most
Well, that's what
welcoming?
no, she said that it was the least welcoming. And I said that if that's true, then that is a good reason for us to sign on to this movement.
Any more discussion?
I said what I had to say. I see it as a very polarizing issue. I don't think it's a decision that ought to be made by the select board. I don't care what it says. If at the very least, it would be a ballot. For me, a ballot issue in a non-off year.
Yeah.
So if I don't, and I do not support it, I would definitely vote against it. I'm not in favor of this at all.
I just don't think it's up to the five of us to decide what the whole
Absolutely
town
not.
does.
One of the things that came to mind today, if I may, real quick, is I've been on the planning commission for somewhere between 16 and 18 years. I don't know. Zoning bylaws. I see this as a behavioral bylaw, and I just do not see that as being anything that we should be getting into.
Just one final.
Yeah, we're gonna be wrapping this up
This is
in 6
actually a
minutes
really
so we can
simple
move
thing.
on.
It's about freedom of speech, and the select board doesn't have the right to speak for the whole Weathersfield residents. As a matter of fact, the final statement in Phil Scott's proclamation was, "I call upon all Vermonters to denounce prejudice, openly acknowledge and address their own implicit bias, and welcome and celebrate all people." What I heard from other residents was that my lived experience was wrong. That I'm wrong, that this is really just okay. And according to all of the rules of progressive rules, you're not allowed to tell me how to feel. And that's just not okay. But you are welcome as a citizen. If you want to do a town hall meeting and line everybody up and they can apologize for their systemic racism and their hostility, great. But this body doesn't have a right to speak for everyone and make this proclamation for everyone. They may not disagree. They may not agree with the statements that are in here, and it's not right. And like he said, and like I said earlier, this is just divisive. Do we really want to go down this road? Because if we do, the next meeting I'm going to present another declaration for protecting parents' right to raise their children in the way they see fit, and a number of other matters that are equally important and equally valid, and I expect it to be considered. And if this is approved, I expect it to also be approved. Thank you.
That's right.
Nathan?
So I guess I can't say that I don't see it as polarizing, because evidently it is, right? I guess I am surprised that welcoming, the way this is written is polarizing. Cause when I read it, I really thought of it as aspirational, but this is the kind of town that statement that welcomes people. I don't see that as a polarizing statement. I do hear that clearly, right? It does have an impact on other people, but I don't see it as I don't see that it should be a polarizing statement. To be honest, I see it as a statement of a welcoming statement, right? And that we're not gonna act right discriminate. I don't. That's where I am.
Did you say not act right now? Did I hear you say that?
Well, regardless, you weren't, it's weren't on the agenda as a discussion, right? Not as
Yes,
a decision,
yeah.
so then the decision would have to be,
Okay.
warned on the agenda.
Yeah.
So that would be the next
Next
agenda.
step. Okay, next step. It won't be on the next agenda, just so you know, Brandon's out of town.
So that would be the next
Future,
agenda after that.
yeah.
I'm not in favor of being on another agenda. I think continuing this discussion is gonna do exactly what political discussion of last year did. It's just gonna turn into a hotbed, it's gonna be ugly, and I don't think we need to go through it.
Rika? I guess I'm confused because I don't. In my reading of it, I don't see it as anything that implies any partisanship in this. Frankly, I was a little, I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying I don't see it.
Can you pull up the implementation, please? That will answer, but I apologize, sure, that would answer that question.
Sorry.
Which one, ongoing or in that? In that.
This is on the declaration website, is that what you're looking at?
Yeah.
This is a packet.
It's online, it's on the Declaration of Inclusion webpage.
Darlene, do you wanna say something?
I do.
Okay,
I think differently. I'm not political. But I'm gonna say it right out there. You started seeing Black Lives Matter. And if you say all lives matter, then you're a racist. It's like, why push it? Of course their lives matter. Of course we should be welcoming, which we all know isn't always the truth, but we should all be Christians, and these should go without saying, is all I'm saying. That's it, that's all I can say, yeah, and it should go without being in writing. Do you remember a while ago when you had Tree City and you had to sign a declaration? I work for the town of Hartford. And so, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna get signs. And next thing you know, there's a spiral, because now that you're Tree Cities USA, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to. And I just see these declarations as a way to open up in the lawns.
And I'm just if I could add to what you're saying, because you're saying what is divisive about this? Well, specifically, the finals or the statement says we want everyone to feel safe and welcome in our community, and it will continue to be a place where individuals can live freely and express their opinions, not under the governance of law and order, not under which Governor Scott specifically states, so long as it follows the laws of our land, which is the most important thing. So there's I keep pointing it, but it's not there. There's a specific wording that it is glaringly omitted in this declaration that does not make it unbiased. It does not make it open to all. And it does set us up for litigation and trouble down the road. I mean, for one, again, you don't have the right to speak for me. I don't agree with some of the statements on here or the belief systems on here. There's some things that I think are unnecessary. They do fall under Vermont state law, and so therefore we support it. But are you gonna deny, are you gonna give up the federal funding if you do not remove the DEI or the gender expression in Weathersfield School? Are we willing to pay for that loss of federal funds? Because it's an awful lot. And this statement guarantees we are on the focus. Like, yep, they're not doing it, so we need to make sure to take the money from them. We're gonna come in here with a microscope. We're gonna look at every book, and anything that's out of line, you're losing your money. I sure don't want to do that. I've got a kid in school. I don't want to pay for that. My taxes are already incredibly high. And we have an increase in the education tax by 14 or 15%. What is the increase when we lose our federal dollar? Because of a kumbaya statement that is not. And honestly, really not.
8:32. Like to bring this, that's part of it to a conclusion for this evening. Is that all right with everybody? Let's move on to number 12, capital plan updates.
Did everybody have an opportunity to read the update in the packet? In addition to that, I put together these drafts. To make it a little bit easier.
Can you describe?
Yes. So.
Talk to me like we were.
Go ahead, set my timer here.
So the first graph at the top there, and let me actually pull it up for everybody here to see as well. Give me 1 second, bear with me. Okay. All right, so these are our 3 options. We're currently doing option number 3. So what option number 3 looks like we are currently doing this right here. So we're using a combination of reserves and loans to fund our capital purchases. And what's happening is you get this very jagged line. This is when taxes go up and then they go down, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. This orange line here shows the amount of interest that we're paying. The blue line shows our principal debt payment. If you go to option 1, option 1 would be eliminating our debt. So if you look here in FY30.
Sorry, Brandon, which option 1 graph are we looking at? Because there's 4 of them in the packet.
The option 1 total annual 20-year capital budget.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, let's go all the way up to the first one and I'll explain each one. So the first graph, capital reserve contributions, interest earned and current debt schedule. This blue line here under option 1 would be how much we would contribute to reserves to fund the capital plan over time, representing stability in the tax rate. The green and the light blue is when our debt payments would end. The orange is when our reserve funds would start accumulating interest earnings. The next graph shows what our cumulative interest earnings would do. You can see those going up, so that's the bank paying the town. And then the orange line is our principal, and the green line drops off in FY30. That's when we stop paying interest to the bank. The next graph is our total annual 20-year capital budget under option 1. So again, what that shows in FY30, you see a dip. That's our debt maturing. And then from that point forward is our 20-year capital cash funded budget. Going to option 2,
this is the option, because option one is a significant jump, and I'm gonna explain that more in this paper handout that I showed you. We put together option two. What this would do is, as you can see here, we would take on the $250,000 loan in year one of the capital plan to brace the impact and to gradually transition to a capital plan. So this budget would be $269,500 compared to the $567,000 originally proposed. It would extend our debt schedule for 2 additional years. And it would cost it down an additional $41,250 in interest. You would still see the benefits. You can kind of see how this is still a little spiky. It looks a little bit more difficult. This is our cumulative interest earnings. The next graph shows what our 20-year budget would look like under option two. You can see that it's a little bit rockier than option one, but it's not such a substantial jump in option as option one does. So it does brace the impact. And to do this, it would cost it down $41,000 in interest. Option three is what we're currently doing. This is the most expensive option for the town. The green is our debt payments going up and down, and this is the tax rate. This is tax rate instability at its finest, actually. The orange is our interest payments. The blue again is principal. The green is our total debt payment. Option three, this is what our 20-year annual budget would look like. So again, it's very rocky. And then we isolated highly motorized equipment and fire apparatus. And basically how we did that is we took a 20-year history on Weathersfield's trends for purchasing this equipment and then forecasted it forward, given our capital replacement plan, taking into factor residual value, the best time to trade in equipment, and certain equipment will be 5 years. Fire trucks are maxing out to its maximum useful life. So we have some trucks at 25 years and others stretching as far as 30 years. Going back to this sheet here, option one is that option to go to a straight cash funded system. You're cutting out the bank, you're not paying interest, you're accumulating interest that the bank pays the town. And that option would be $9,697,000 over 20 years. Option two would be taking that $250,000 loan the first year to brace the tax impact, bringing it from $567,000 the first year down to $269,000, I believe, the first year. That's costing the town a little bit more because we're paying interest on a new loan for 5 years. So that's why you see that kind of go up. Option three is if we continue doing what we're currently doing, and we fund our capital plan using combinations of reserve funds and bank notes ranging from 5 to 7 years. This plan will cost the town an additional $3 million over 20 years, estimated. If the previous 20-year interest rates average remains the same for the next 20 years. So the interest rates will fluctuate and may not be exactly what we projected there. The annual cost, the average annual cost. So under option one, the average annual cost would be $510,000. Under option three, it would be $655,000 if we continue doing what we're doing. Under option two, it would be slightly more than option one, because you take that $42,000 in interest divided by 20 years, which accounts for that additional almost $2,000 per year. So that's where we're at right now with the capital plan. I think we've really reached the end of research. So we've done substantial research on these 4 capital plans. And we think at this point, it's really in the court of the budget committee and the select board. We've exhausted our research efforts.
Your question, or do we wanna wait until after the budget committee has looked at it? Do you need something from us now? No,
If you guys have any feedback or input, that would be fine. If not, we plan to discuss this at the budget committee on Monday and then. After the budget committee reviews it, the select board will review it again. And then the board would make a decision on whether to put this as an article at town meeting.
I'm in favor of option one. Rip the Band-Aid off and get it over with in that first year.
Yep.
I'm not crazy about the $250,000 loan to reduce that impact a little bit.
And what happens when you take that and the FY 28 budget, you start paying that principal and interest. So the budget will increase by 70,000 in FY 28 between FY 27 and FY 28. So at this time next year, we'll be discussing a $70,000 increase for that debt payment.
And the voters can tell us, no way, we're not doing that.
Yep.
And then we'll have to figure something else out, but personally, that's my preference. If you need to know how we feel, how I feel.
I think I have to go back to the definition of insanity for me. And this is not for leading you divorce. This one is.
Twice in one night.
No, this one is being insane.
And keeping track.
I'm charged. No, because in this case, what I was gonna say, the way we've always done it is. You have this going on in your budget.
Which is very
That's the
frustrating.
insane.
That's yeah. Well, but doing it the same way is the definition of sanity, which is what I was gonna say. If that's what the voters are gonna probably end up telling us, those years at least give us a relief in those tax years. Although we usually find some way to
Not have
mess
this.
that up. Because, we're getting a decrease here, so we gotta do this.
There's so much deep in spending $3 more million.
I understand that, I understand that, yeah, this is just a tough decision. But that's what we're here for, we either make the tough decision or we let the people do it for us.
Well, we don't need to do it tonight.
No.
But conceptually, I agree with leveling it out, being forward thinking, right? So that we're minimizing kind of financial risk and we're getting what we need done. That makes a lot of sense to me. I do get nervous with all the loan manipulation and interest, but maybe I'm a little too old school. I don't know. That makes me anxious. Paying interest, I don't love. But I absolutely agree with thinking through and how to level it out before forward planning, right? Anticipating costs. My nervousness is I feel more uncertain this year what the whole big picture is coming together as, right? And I feel a lot more uncertain than I guess I have in the past on what sort of the impact on everybody's gonna be at the end. That's where my sort of anxiety is the right word probably.
I have the same anxiety.
I look at it, the graphs you provided, the line just keeps going up and up and up and up.
That's because I was being realistic for you.
Oh, no, I know.
You're gonna slide down that hill.
I believe that, point being that is.
So if you look 20 years ago at the general fund budget then compared to today, you're gonna see that same line going up.
I know.
For everything.
I know, that, I wasn't criticizing what you're doing, it's very good.
Oh, I didn't think it was criticism.
What I'm talking about is there's a breaking point to everything. There becomes a point where it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
If that's not your fault, it's not our fault, it's just the projection and the, what is the direction that we're going in.
That unfortunately is, so this here. This graph that you see here. If you look at the price of something right now that costs $500,000. And then you look back at what that piece of equipment has increased per year.
Yep.
That's the number that we use to increase the cost in compounding annually.
Right.
And like that, is that, yeah, the residual value also goes up, and then the cost of the equipment, the cost of labor, the cost of everything just continues to increase.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
A steak is gonna be $300.
But everything,
20 years from now.
everything increases, in addition to that, though, everything's relative, so if income increases. As it should increase, as other things increase. A dollar today is a lot different than it was 20 years ago.
I will be healthier though. I'll definitely be losing weight.
So, that's all I have.
Yeah, it's,
And I'm okay either way, I'll manage the town. With loans or without loans.
no, I agree with what you're doing and I agree with Nate. The level budget is a better way to go. And that was out 20 years, right?
Yeah.
That was out 20, well, that's $3 million, but how many machines can we buy with $3 million that we didn't give away to a bank? Right?
Exactly.
Well, go ahead. Tell her, just speak who you are, because she doesn't know.
I'm Beth Hunton. I'm not a troublemaker. Just weird. We could talk about this in the budget committee, but you said you look back 20 years?
Yep.
And how things were increasing, and you're projecting that in the future. Had you considered that it's actually gonna increase more?
Yes, well,
The
no,
tariffs and all the other.
so we have our chief, this line here, Beth, this
Yes, ma'am.
cumulative interest earnings.
Sorry, I've been saying yes, ma'am, all day.
Alright.
Oh, cool.
I'm officially having. The reserve funds will gain interest in them. And this plan will be reviewed annually. After an expense occurs, we review it and adjust it accordingly every year. But these cumulative interest earnings would also come into that. So this is almost like the contingency for the capital plan, but you might be able to lower it, or you may have to raise it. You have to continuously review what's going on. But what we're doing right now is not doing anyone any favors. So to change that is why we've been working on this capital plan. And we started the effort last year and we're unable to achieve it.
Yeah.
And this year, because we realized how much, we didn't want to present something that wasn't comprehensive and took into consideration all the variable factors. And this is our next step, so.
Brandon, theoretically, having a plan like this, will it over time help guide us in perhaps reshaping our services and needs and I mean, as things keep going up, you gotta find a way to bring things down. Does it help with that? And so, I mean,
Everything is relative, Mike, so if you look back 20 years at, the amount of money people made versus the expenses, I think. I mean, I can't say this without doing the research, but I know the minimum wage has increased since 2005. But everything else has increased too. So no, it'd be a full-blown study to determine whether people were better off then as compared to now. I'm sure it's been done.
I wasn't looking so much at the.
I'm not faulting there,
I wasn't looking so much at the people as I was the actual function and services and equipment and stuff that we have. There have been some things we did over the past year. We had the 6-wheelers. We had a full fleet of 6-wheelers. We went to 10-wheelers because they were more. I mean, I was just asking if this kind of gives us a format to look at that helps in navigating that and tailoring our services, trimming or whatever to bring things together. I don't know.
So if we take a vehicle up, let's say, I think that's what you're getting at, like let's say we trim the dump truck down. then you're putting more pressure on our other dump trucks, requiring replacement sooner or repairs sooner. So that's kind of, we did look at that. We did look at reducing the fleet, but then it burdens the rest of the fleet.
Right?
I have mixed feelings about the prices going up originally myself too. I worry about the folks that are on a fixed income. It's definitely a long-term plan. There's a lot of hidden savings you can't see in a capital plan. Right now, we depend on a special article. If the article gets voted down like it has in the past at times, we lost a grader by 18 votes one year. The next year, we purchased a grader for $75,000 more than what we would have purchased it for the year before. We will have vehicles that's a hit, that's 35 grand, it's not even in this chart. I just had a truck fixed for the winter. It was 16,000 to replace, or 14,000 to replace the radiator and do some depth system repairs, not under warranty. It's something that I had an $85,000 maintenance budget. That would be under warranty on a 7-year truck or a 6-year truck with a 7-year warranty. And the chances are that going bad in that 6-year cycle is gone. So there's, surprise, there was 8,000 for the other 2012 to weld the frame and get the body fixed and put new hinges on the tailgate. So there's quite a bit of money right there. The loader was $16,000 last June to replace the pins and do all the welding to get that thing put back together. That's all caused by, we can't get it now because we're paying a loan payment over here in the police department or the fire department. And once that's gone, then maybe we can borrow to get this replaced. And then we keep on moving that money around, and you're wasting a lot of money. You're stepping over dollars to pick up dimes at that point. You think you're saving money by putting it off a couple more years and getting this fire apparatus instead of the dump truck, or vice versa, because that's when the payment's gone, and that's when we can use that payment to buy another truck or another piece of equipment. This eliminates all that. When you need to get the vehicle you need to get to do your job, you have the money to get that vehicle. You don't have to worry about it being voted down or costing more in maintenance because you delayed it for 2 years because you think you're saving money by not having the taxes high this year or next year. But year 3, year 4, you're killing yourself. You're really hurting the town long term. So yes, it does hurt. There's a lot of folks that might not vote for it because they're not going to see a 20-year return. I look at it like I wish we did 20 years ago. Things would be a lot more affordable now. It's tough. There's a lot of stuff going on in the economy. A lot of people are scared about insurance. They're worried about school stuff. They're worried about everything. If we delay, postpone it a year, I talked to Brandon about that. What happens? What's it going to look like if we don't do it this year? We do it next year. That price goes way up every year because you still have to replace that stuff. And it's getting closer to having to replace it sooner, and you're not saving any money to do it. So you're going to borrow money.
They're losing residual value.
Right, and it's all connected. Anyway, that's just my.
Just to be clear, I wasn't advocating that direction on it. I was just trying to create a reference of, does this create some sort of image that we can look at as we're moving along that maybe we tailor our services to? That's all. Does it help us in that? That's all.
I always look at trying to buy vehicles that do more than one job. We do that all the time. We had 7 trucks. We're down to 6. We have a spare, and it's gone. We're not replacing it. We have another truck that's going to go into the spare. When that's gone, we're probably not going to replace that. We're doing that, and this puts us in a better position to be able to.
I understand. But I do have a question based on something you said. Because I think we're still going to have to vote on purchasing. Correct? Like if we were going to purchase a truck.
You legally vote now when you borrow money.
Okay.
My theory, correct me if I'm wrong, but my theory would be If you are gonna add something that you don't already have in your fleet, then there definitely needs to be a discussion. If I have, 6 dump trucks and I wanna get a 7th dump truck, that has to be a discussion. But if it's something that's already in the fleet and it's already scheduled to be replaced and you're not borrowing money to do that, it's not an additional tax burden to the town.
But there's another hiccup. Where are we putting the money from the budget?
So it goes in, so the select board would vote, it goes into reserve funds.
And we have to, and we have to vote to authorize the expense.
Well, the select board does, yes, and it exceeds our purchasing ability. So the select board will see every capital purchase that is made.
Yeah.
There'd be an agenda item, and then the board would see the finance package, and then the board would determine whether to move forward with it.
I would strongly suggest some kind of a policy that states in the future, if you have like, and I'm just throwing spitballs.
Oh, we would absolutely need.
There would be some kind of policy that says, the highway has 5 dump trucks, 2 loaders and a grader and an excavator. And that's like the general. Now, if they're gonna get 7 dump trucks and 2 graders and a roller, and that's a whole new discussion. That's something that's not gonna just get thrown into this pot and buy it, because that's where I'm concerned. I wanna make sure when I'm gone, there's a really good discussion about adding equipment. Not just thinking because of this, we don't have to put it up to people to vote for.
Makes sense.
Does it make sense?
Yep.
You're adding to your fleet.
Excuse me?
Did he say he's leaving at some point? I don't know if that should-
Well, 20 years from now, I'm not gonna be doing this job, I hope. So,
We're gonna chain them down.
that's just my thought.
We can keep him going with AI.
Yes.
I swear to God.
And ready for.
So that's my 2 cents, and in 20 years, it'd be my $20.
Okay, let's go on to number 13. The Memorial Grove Committee policy. You guys, I missed this too. You guys approved the second reading, this is the third reading with changes, I heard. Were there changes to this?
Yeah.
They were kind of minor. All it was the recognition of some monuments and stuff that are up there. To make sure that they were included in,
Okay,
The middle
that's all it
wheel
was.
and.
There's a spelling issue.
The.
did you fix it?
He
did
Yeah.
not.
It's not included there, but had we in our discussion.
You did discuss it, and if the feeling was that the way this was worded, the pound would be included. I don't know how I feel about that, and we did specifically include the memorial mill wheel and the Civil War monument.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah.
Johnson. I don't know what your
Yeah, I
phone
was-
is.
I was here the last time when you guys were talking about it, was really interesting for me because I've been in this town a long time and I remember we actually used to have reenactments up there years ago. There was a Civil War and the Revolutionary War enactments. They
You're
did
showing your
back
age.
when I was a little kid. But the question I have is the Memorial Grove Committee. What is the Memorial Grove Committee? Is there actually committee members and
Well, that's
I
what
never
we're
heard about it.
developing it.
and where is it? What's that?
It hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened.
No,
You're just getting to it.
we're just talking about a policy that would create that committee.
I was on the last meeting, so it was a second reading and I didn't get the, this is a third, so I'm like, where's this coming about? I can't, cause I listened to it in last time John was talking about, I had a real interest in it and cause I know about the monuments up there now. And of course, being on the Veterans Committee and I remember as a kid having, we always celebrated Memorial Day up there. That was my first church. So, yeah, but I hadn't heard, I didn't know, I said it was a development or what?
Just
It hasn't
remember,
happened yet. We're
You
still
can
working.
be on that committee.
You know what, that's it, I was all over the website trying to find it, and I'm like,
It's not there yet.
there's no committee here.
Not there yet, no.
So we have a little piece of paper you can put your name on and submit it to us and we can have you on the next meeting.
Well,
Once we get this
we're,
done.
we're gonna wait to see what mission statement and everything gets else, it's on it for double time.
Okay, I guess I need a motion to accept the final reading of the Memorial Grove Committee policy with the changes that were made.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
All the changes are made that everybody was looking for.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries.
I have one question.
Have we had any luck finding the map and all that other information that John Harrison brought up?
I have not looked for it yet, but I will put it on my agenda right now.
Yeah.
That would give the committee a jump start.
Are you asking about the map, like the old tag trees and all that stuff?
When
I think
Jim
I-
Mullen
yeah,
was
I
here.
think I saw one at one time at the highway department.
We heard it was there. That was what, that was exactly where we were told it was.
I would look through all the
Yes,
files.
Could be
please.
a binder, is what we.
Now the trees are supposed
There's
to
like
be.
10,000 binders, so I should be able to find it.
You have a question, Brandon?
Yes.
Brandon has a question.
So. Is everybody glad that we created a policy before we created the committee?
Yes.
I think we worked out a lot. For the past couple of meetings.
Is that your question?
Yeah.
Pretty lame question.
Getting late, we're getting silly now.
It went a lot faster.
Ma'am, you need to go on.
Yeah. The future agenda items. Is there anything else?
I'm glad that we created a policy.
I think it's the way to go.
I'm glad that you're glad.
Yeah. Future agenda item. I'm happy too. Is everyone satisfied with what's on there?
Oh, good God, I need coffee.
Let's not add any more.
Well, I think, right, not this next meeting, but the Declaration of Inclusion.
I disagree.
I know that.
Of course you do.
I mean, not for the next meeting, but the meeting after.
I'm gonna go even beyond that. I'm gonna say leave it up to the chair, for when it fits the schedule. We're heading into the budget. We already got a future agenda item list that has what, 9 items on it? I think we got plenty, on the agenda for now. I don't see it as a high priority, it's not a prioritized item to me. I'm sorry. These are the things that are coming up in the budget. Take priority over that. So I don't see, that list is just gonna keep growing if we keep allowing that. For now, I don't, it'll come back up maybe. We'll see, let it come back up on its own, let the chair
I'm
handle
gonna
it.
add the vending machine, discussion.
Oh, transfer
Oh, and if.
Yeah, for a future agenda item.
Not next time.
No, next time.
I do wanna point something else out. If the chair is refusing to put something on the agenda, in our policy, 3 members can vote to override the chair. And just so everybody knows, if it's a motion on the floor, it's a vote, so if you're, I'm saying I'm against it, you obviously want it. I'm just saying, let the chair, let's get through the agenda, but if you guys wanna force the issue, you can. You guys, you ladies, whoever. So anyway, John Jensen Road, request to install a gate, didn't we do that already?
She wants to come back. Yeah.
No, the drawing man.
I want a copy of what Ray sent her. A paper copy,
Okay,
I want a map of where she
the
wants.
last time,
okay.
when you responded to her, I can't find my response.
There's an email chain.
Yeah. There's an email somewhere that was just
Yeah, I was just
Ray sent it to me and Brandon.
Okay.
I want a copy of that one. I think everyone needs a copy of that one.
Okay.
Well, if you do that, be careful, don't anybody start discussing it.
No, everyone needs a copy of it, so they know what's happening before we do that.
Okay.
Okay, appointments, we have an appointment here.
She's sleeping.
She's sleeping. Okay. Veterans Memorial Committee vacancy 1 year, Darlene Johnson.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. What's this?
That's where.
That's this one?
Yep.
Oh, okay. And other business. I went to the school board meeting the other night. And Mr. Arison was very insistent that someone from this board be a liaison for the town to the school board.
I think it should be a resident school superintendent person.
I thought John was the representative from the school board for us.
Yeah.
Then we have to have one from the select board.
It goes over there. They kind of put me, he kind of put me on the chair. When I was there the other night, because I was on the BAC committee, so we were there to present to the VA, to them what we thought they should do for the budget. And John Harrison started bringing up the last meeting and about how we didn't have anyone there. And I said, well, I'm here, but that really shouldn't count because that's not what I'm here for. So I said I would bring it up at the meeting and we will see what happens.
Are you asking for you to be nominated to be a rep at the school board meeting? Cause I can make that motion.
But you already go all the time.
Call it a conflict of interest.
You call it that, but it's not.
I don't, why would it be a conflict of interest? I mean, you're just providing information, right, and
Well, I wouldn't
connecting.
know what information to give them. What would we tell them?
Less money.
Well, that ain't happening.
I think that the purpose of the liaison is just to, primarily for budget discussions. I think when Kelly Murphy first came up with this idea, that we've got two budgets going on at the same time that are gonna mutually affect the taxpayers without either party knowing what the other was doing and what the cumulative impact
Well,
would
Dave
be.
Fuller was it for us, and he went for other stuff other than the budget. Cause they asked him questions about other stuff.
Well, then they're going to, cause I mean, in my opinion, right, there's cross collaboration, I mean, look at Parks and Rec, right, like that's an obvious place for this school and town ought to be working together, right, there's places that we should have conversations. And you're gonna do a great job at it.
It's not a conflict of interest. Nobody's paying you to do it, I don't think.
I think the secretly wants to.
I think he does too.
I already have a meeting with an item.
I know he feels his head going this way, but I'm seeing it go this way. Do we have to vote on that? Or-
No, I just put it out there. That was my other business that I put out there.
So you're gonna do it?
I didn't say that.
I think, I mean, in all honesty, if you're already there. Makes a lot of sense for you to be that person, right, if you're already going to the meetings.
But we
it's
some
good
of them
money.
go to all of them.
John comes
Some nights I
one
can't
when
go.
he feels good, I think.
They only have one.
But he only comes here once.
Yeah.
He doesn't come to all of them.
Yeah, but I can't go to all there. I can't go to, sometimes I can't go to their meeting.
Yeah, I-
Sometimes ours, like
Sometimes
tires.
Tom doesn't come either. I don't think you need to feel terrible.
I will try it.
Yeah, pressure meeting.
I claim seniority exemption.
Yeah. Okay, approve the warrant. Someone like to make a motion to approve the warrant.
Motion to approve the warrants. Dated November 24th, 2025. General fund payroll total $14,572.68. Operating expense $36,547.66. Highway fund payroll total $10,842.08. Operating expense $44,132.59. Payroll solid waste management total $2,196.09. Operating expense $2,337.08. Payroll library total $2,464.98. Operating $0. Grant from Maple Street total operating expense $1,484.30. Grand totals payroll $30,075.83. Operating expense $84,501.63. Needs a second.
Yes, can you say that again?
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
That's a good one.
No discussion. Kelly has no questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. You can get paid.
Alright.
Motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
There's a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeehaw.
I had something on the other business. And I went up left that one. Really good. I was gonna find out. Now they last for years. I wish I were.
All together.
One in my car.
Mike.
You didn't have time.
Are we out?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I sit here all the time. And you switched up on your snack this time.